Analog horror, as a genre on YouTube, is nothing new. With the explosion of series such as The Walton Files, Mandela Catalog, and countless others in recent years, the success of such series is palpable. So there will be undoubtedly people who will try to take a stab at analog horror, try it out for themselves. Enter Urbanspook, a modestly sized channel who, 2 months ago, began their own analog horror series which is still ongoing. But you may be asking, what sets it apart? Why'd I choose this one? What makes it so different? Why don't I show you what makes it different from the rest, and I'll deconstruct all the episodes that have been released so far, and maybe give my predictions of where the series will go from there. Without further ado, let's get into it. All the episodes in the series are presented like police reports, the in-universe explanation being the author of these videos had found a series of VHS tapes in the basement of his apartment complex and was converting them into digital. The main premise of the series comes in right here. There's a serial killer at large, leaving behind a trail of bodies. What makes this serial killer different, however, is he leaves paintings made by him for the police to find. This is what makes it really scary. Our big bad isn't some entity or some cosmic force we can't comprehend. It's just a deeply disturbed individual in his gruesome crimes. As the narration points out, 6 months ago, police discovered 3 paintings in an abandoned storage area linked to some recent murders. Our first victim was a woman by the name of Carla Gray, who had been stabbed 36 times in the face and found with all her teeth removed. What police seemed to link to these murders was the painting with the title Carla's Teeth written on the back of the painting. And here we have our first of many paintings/images that the series has to offer. I found Urbanspook makes these paintings himself, and I have to say, good job, man. They have this uncanny valley feeling to them that you can't really shake off. You'll be seeing what I mean as we continue to see more of these paintings. The second victim was another woman named Jackie Graham, who had been found drowned with 27 stab wounds to her perineum. From what autopsy had shown, she was alive during the stabbing. She was found in a bathtub and being depicted in the painting floating Jackie in her final moments. So we now know that the killer has an affinity for mutilating his victims in odd and painful ways, usually leaving them to suffer for days on end, like our last victim, James Miller. He was found with his face completely torn off and his wrists slit. From what the autopsy had gathered, James was alive for days without a face, much similar to Jackie. Probably left to scream in agony as he bled out from the cuts on his wrists. I think James's painting takes the cake for the creepiest one, titled James's Secret Face. It just shakes me to my core and I don't know how to describe it. The eyes look like they're staring into my soul. Along with those paintings, there were more discovered linked to more deaths, and as we'll soon learn, it seems the killer premeditated these murders and seals the deal by painting them. There were several unidentified paintings depicting several unknown people. After the case went public, photos were sent to the police seeming to depict the faces of 3 victims in the paintings, but others have still not been identified. After initial discovery of the paintings, another was found titled Self-Portrait. If we take this at face value, we now have an idea of what the killer looks like.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
And with that, we move on to episode 2.
After an unknown amount of time from the first video, police officer Bill Collins goes missing along with his wife and daughters. It seems that Bill found the self-portrait in his house, but doesn't know how it could have gotten there. As the police searched his home, they found Bill's daughter hanging from the ceiling in the attic. What makes this even more messed up is that the child was just 2 months old. And if you think this killer was disturbed, trust me, it gets worse. So you may be asking, where did he take Bill and his wife and the other kid? Well, look at the title, you silly goose. 12 days after the search in Bill's home, the family car was discovered by the beach, partially driven into the surf. A painting was left inside the car, titled Long-Necked Angel, and it of course depicts Bill's infant daughter. Later investigations revealed that the child's name was indeed Angel. An abandoned lighthouse nearby instantly drew police attention as they went to investigate. The door had another painting, this one of a face. Whether this is connected to another victim is yet to be revealed. Inside, they found the body of Daniel Williams, a teenager who had gone missing. His body was burnt to a crisp, and he's been lying there for weeks. This connects to the painting Daniel After the Fires, as seen in episode 1. Police soon realized that there are tunnels underneath the lighthouse, finding the bodies of mother and daughter Jennifer and Lisa White, who had been missing for several months. These two new bodies connect to their respective paintings, Jennifer's last stare and Lisa's secret face. From the looks of it, Lisa was killed in a similar way to James Miller, having her face sliced clean off and being left to bleed out in agony. Jennifer, on the other hand, we'll get back to later. As police made their way deeper into the tunnels, they found a moist barrel that had an awful smell. Inside were meat and bones of several people. Forensics came back and said the remains belonged to the remaining Collins family. Reports also showed that they had an obscene amount of amphetamines in their system. For all intents and purposes, the killer seems to be getting them high on drugs so that he can mutilate them for as long as he wants. Which is what I think also happened to Jennifer. Looking at her face in the painting, several photos of the Collins family were also found surrounding the barrel. And I'm going to be real with you, man. When the first time I saw these, I flinched. Like, oh my god, these freak me out. And as I'm recording this, I'm still getting the chills, you know? But that aside, the last photo shows the fourth unknown individual. And judging from the self-portrait painting, this is our first photo of the killer.
The Beck twins, Corey and Margaret, went missing a few days ago. Being 11 years old, it caused quite some alarm, and investigations started right away. 15 days later, their bodies were found inside an abandoned paper mill. What makes this discovery even more gruesome was the state their bodies were found in. The twins were bisected crosswise, and Corey's lower half and Margaret's upper half were sloppily sewn together. The rest of their remains were yet to be found. Corey's genitals seemed to have been removed completely by pulling force. Meanwhile, Margaret had a brick forcefully shoved down her throat, shattering her jaw and neck in several places. The brick had the word meat written on it. According to Corey's friends, the week before him and his sister's disappearance, they had dared him to go inside a cabin with his camera. He went in alone and soon came out of the cabin screaming, claiming he had seen a face. From his friend's account, his arm was bruised and he had dropped the camera. As part of the investigation, police went into the cabin in search of this lost camera. Perhaps it could contain some clues in relation to the killer. Upon entering the cabin, they found a false wall revealing a crawl space behind a closet. Corey's camera was found within its entrance. Inside, there were these photos. Nothing too special. Some rock, what looks like a wire. Standard for, oh, hello. So now we have a second photo of the killer, and it seems like he tracked down Corey and then kidnapped his sister and him after they had encountered each other. At least we now know who the painting Scream, Maggie, Scream, and... Man, this guy was really messed up. What we still don't know is how the killer is able to get the names of his victims. Perhaps getting their names from the weeks of stalking he does in order to find his victims in a vulnerable position. But that's purely speculation. The next episode was released 5 days ago, so let's look at that. Episode 4 informs us that not only are the police investigating these killings, but also private investigators, more than likely hired by the victims' families who believe that the police aren't doing a good enough job. One of these private investigators being Sean Kane. As of recently, Sean has gone missing. The last case he was investigating before his disappearance was the case of Tom Harris, discovering his body in his apartment. The killer had apparently climbed the drain pipe up to Tom's apartment, which was on the 3rd floor. A large pile of candle wax was found in the living room. Inside was Tom's body. His arms and eyelids had been cut off with a third arm from an unknown person. Police ruled Tom had died from suffocating in the melted wax. A week later, Sean disappeared from his home. His neighbors reporting his dog barking endlessly without stopping, sounding like it was in distress. Upon police entering, they discovered Tom's dog with all her legs broken. Despite being dehydrated and suffering, she was still alive. Presumably the dog was given proper treatment and had recovered. Blood trails were found leading from the bedroom to the kitchen. Sean seemed to have drawn the number 2 on the doorframe in his own blood. In Sean's bedroom, police found a new painting, The Man in the Pipes, clearly depicting a face resembling Sean's. The killer had entered Sean's home through the basement. A few days before, he had installed security cameras in the basement. Despite being destroyed, forensics recovered a photo of the killer.
Open the door! Open the door!
So what do I think about the series moving forward? With the latest episode being titled The Clue, I have a theory of sorts. Sean had written the number 2 on the doorframe, presumably in his final moments. I believe that there isn't just one killer, but 2. Perhaps this is how the killer, or killers, were able to kidnap multiple people at once, such as the Collins family or the Beck twins. How could one person do that by themselves? Maybe, with Sean's final breath, he wanted to tell people what he saw. 2 people entering his home, one restraining the dog and mutilating it, while the other doing away with Sean for attempting to help police in the investigation. We've seen the killer's face a total of 3 times now, excluding the self-portrait because we know that could be heavily stylized, and each time their face has been consistent. Except for in episode 4. Look at how erratic their eyes are and how it looks like their mouth has been sewn shut. Maybe the killer is using the victims' faces as masks a la Leatherface, seeing how it seems to be sewn on and we can see a second mouth. The killer could be using these skin masks to hide his identity. Maybe the faces of Lisa or James, but we can't really say for sure. This doesn't explain Tom's body, however. Who did the third arm belong to? It could be Corey's arm, seeing as his upper half was never recovered. However, this is all speculation, and we'll have to see if the next episode will prove these theories correct. And yeah, that about ends Urbanspook series for now. More episodes are to be released, so I hope you stay tuned for more breakdowns on this channel. I love the direction this series is going in, and I hope to see more twists and turns, and hope to see Urbanspook gain a larger audience. Dude makes the images, editing, and music for all these videos. He deserves some praise. Go watch the series on his channel in full and give him a sub. Give me a sub too if you feel like it, it really helps me out. Anyways, like if you liked it, subscribe if you're new and you want to see more, say no to drugs and alcohol, and I am out.